Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors meeting for February 7th. I have a few people to admit here, but we will get started. We'll start with our agenda. Item number 1 is acknowledge the minutes from the previous meetings. Let's see, we have one from January 31st, one from February 1st, one from February 2nd, one from February 3rd.
Okay, motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Drish for approval of the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So let's go ahead and meet with our county engineer.
Good morning, supervisors.
Good morning, Dwayne.
Last week or the week before, I don't remember which, you approved to award the contract for the Vedic City Bridge to Iowa Bridge and Culvert. The first item in your packet is their performance bond, which they required to provide. Needs the supervisor's signature, so I have one supervisor's signature, so Darren signed that before the meeting. But we're moving forward on that after this gets filed on the state's online document system, then they will go through contract signing. And I'm guessing that since we approved the award of contract, I can just go ahead and sign it. The line without further activity by you guys.
Good morning.
We haven't gotten around.
Good morning. We're in our meeting right now. We'll be with you in a moment.
Very good.
Thank you.
Weekly accomplishments. Last week was basically dry. The guys were, grader routes were blading the roads, doing more brush cutting under bridges and in the right of way. This week they're down west of Osage and south of Glasgow. There's quite a bit of, I'd call it overtopping, where the trees are coming out over the right of way, you know, in the 15 to 20 foot range. But they're over, not just over the ditch, but they're also over the road.
Right, and we want the sun to get to the road so it dries it out a lot better.
Well, that and just from a proactive standpoint, should there be storm damage, we just as soon not have those things falling on the road. So the crews will use their equipment and cut those back to the right of way line or the tree if that helps make a cleaner cut on that. We've got Thomas and Keaton over at HMA 1 training for the DOT this week, which is training them for asphalt inspection for this coming season's projects. Next week, I will probably have Thomas and Keaton out on Libertyville Road, starting to do preliminary survey. That project's a year or two down the road, but it's going to take us a while to get the data that we need to do it correctly. So they'll probably, I'm going to guess they'll have 2 weeks out there doing that. We received quotes for the septic systems for our grader shed improvements. Those are included in your packet. The low quote on that was from Cross Iron Excavating for combined for the 2 sheds at $22,300. I think we guesstimated that we were going to be around 20, so we're a little bit short of the mark on that, but not terribly off. And the last item I've got on there is just a little sheet I put together. Actually, I put it together for the Farm Bureau last week, and I don't think
No, I did not get it printed to take to the Farm Bureau.
Basically, we're looking at roughly $5.7 million in construction projects this coming season, with 2.6 million of that being county funds and the rest of it either swap or regional funds or farm to market. I think that's really all I have.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming
You did a great
through
job
the
last
meeting
week.
and I did a good job.
Yeah, you did.
Well, it's nice to get feedback. Because generally you don't hear anything unless somebody's complaining, so
Exactly.
getting the feedback from some of the local farmers and landowners on what they see as priorities helps.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay. I think I'd like to have Melissa in here when we talk about this next item. Yeah, if you would. We're going to get our financial officer in here for our next conversation, which is going to be discuss and consider moving from Voya to T. Rowe Price. I believe I have both of our representatives on right now from T. Rowe Price here online with us. How are you guys doing today?
Morning.
Yeah, good morning. Doing good. Doing good. Thank you.
Excellent. I'm glad you were able to join us by Zoom rather than calling you on the phone this morning. Hopefully that you're driving and using the Zoom number if you're driving at all. So come on over.
I am. Yeah, I'm. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just audio only. I have no video this morning.
Yep. Yeah, I knew that would be the case either way. So we brought this subject up quite a while back. There has been a change with the city of Fairfield to go from Voya to T. Rowe Price. And my understanding, and I think the other two supervisors understood this as well, that this is a change that both entities need to make in order for everything to come through like it is. But I still have some questions about retirees that are drawing from their Voya accounts right now. How would that affect them?
Outside of
So,
allergies,
go ahead,
Matt.
Nick. Okay, yeah. So, again, good morning, everybody. This is Matt Peterson. I'm with T. Rowe Price. So when a plan transitions, so whether it's a 403B or it's a 401k, any kind of retirement qualified account, when it transfers from one provider to another, everything gets transferred over. So not just the account balances, but the individual participant balances get transferred over. Active participants and terminated participant balances all transfer over. Any promissory notes and amortization schedules on loans taken out gets transferred over. And anybody who's set up to take a distribution, qualified distribution over time, those distributions can be continued and transitioned over as well. So upon the completion date and upon the date that it would go live at T. Rowe Price, everything you have in place administratively would just continue.
Okay.
And just for the sake of, I know when you met with us several months ago, you explained this, why we need to do what the city of Fairfield does, how that works, but just for the sake of reviewing that information.
Yeah, my main points for bringing all this up, I've done it with some other plans, some other local governments in my area. Essentially, in my opinion, we're going to be increasing service and we're going to be reducing fees. And there's some other little nuances in there. The fact that you guys are two separate entities of one plan can touch on some compliance issues. And on top of all of that, it's a great way to refresh, pick new investments, open it back up, make sure everything's in line. And then one thing I found was that right now on the Voya side, you guys do not have a TPA. It's a third-party administrator. Essentially, what they do is go in and look at the plan every single year and make sure that it's in compliance. 457s don't have to have a TPA, and they don't have to follow the same compliance rules 401ks do. But I don't find it to be a bad practice to do so anyway. At any given moment, the government could say, well, 457s now have to be exactly what 401ks are. I'd rather be doing that ahead of the game. And all of those compliance issues that 401ks have to deal with are in favor for the participants. So they're not bad things. They watch out for the individuals. If someone over contributes right now to their 457, there's no plan in place to catch that.
Okay.
That's helpful. Thank you.
It's an example. That's one of the compliance things that's usually looked at.
All right. The other question I would have, I guess, is the two plans are tied together. If we were to wanting to split that up, how would that work? Because you had mentioned that it's kind of unusual that two entities are tied together like this.
For the sake of cost effectiveness, you guys would be adding on to another governmental TPA plan. So this TPA plan just governs any governmental entity can join this TPA plan, and that keeps that cost low on the TPA side.
Okay.
At T-Roll, you guys are completely separate. So I'd log in if you guys both moved and I'm your representative for both of you guys. I'd log in and I'd see an account number for County of Jefferson and an account number for City of Fairfield. They'd be entirely separate. Melissa Fowler and Becky Loper would not be able to see each other's clients anymore, would not be able to call in and request things. Totally separate.
Okay. And there's no cost associated with transferring from one to the other, fees that would be involved in that?
There's one fee for transferring and Two Rivers will actually pay for that.
Okay. So that's nothing that the county would have to pay for. And none of the employees would lose any of the money that they have already put into the account. This is just a straight transfer from one to another.
There's one fund in there that there's a possibility of it, which we'll have to deal with and kind of go into more depth when it comes time. But the Stability of Principal Fund has an MVA. That's a market value adjustment. Basically, they have you locked into a certain interest rate. If interest rates are lower out in the real world and they're getting this off of you, they're going to charge you for leaving that fund. I've spoken to Matt about this a little bit, and we've dealt with it with the City of Burlington. We have a couple of options. We can either get these folks out of that fund before we do the transfer, and then once we hit the T. Rowe Price side, we get back into T. Rowe Price's similar fund. It's a little tedious, but you guys don't have so many participants that I can't talk to all 8 people who have a large balance in that fund, move them around, and then do it again on the other side. The other option is to move over the course of 5 years. I've seen larger plans do this. 20% of the balance you have in that Stability of Principal Fund moves every year for 5 years until everything's over. That way you actually keep the higher interest rate you might have on the Voya side for a little bit longer, and you avoid the MVA. Either option's open, and we can talk in more detail about what that looks like and what that means.
Okay.
And Matt, words
That's
on
also
that.
something I'll add on that. So these MVAs, they're pretty common among plans, and there's a couple of ways they can be approached. As Nick mentioned, he addressed the ways that they can be transferred. The most common way that we see it handled, especially in a plan of a smaller number of participants. If we had 10,000 employees, it becomes a big deal. But if there's a smaller number of employees, reaching out to those individual employees ahead of time, we have to read the language in the Voya MVA to be certain of this. But typically what we see is, like Nick mentioned, we just simply talk to those individual employees and say, hey, we're moving the plan from Voya to T. Rowe Price to avoid any kind of extra penalty on this particular fund. If you just simply log into the Voya website, move the $5,000 that you have in that fund over to a different stable fund, just for now, we then transfer all the money to T. Rowe Price, and then that participant can roll their money where they see fit. Again, we have to confirm that in the MBA language with Voya to make sure that that's accurate. But 99% of the plans that I've worked with in the past have done that without any problems. And like I said, if there is an issue with an individual participant, they do have the ability to pay no fees, keep their money in that fund, and it will just, that one particular fund, or that one particular participant would transfer slowly over the course of 5 years, but the rest of their balance and everybody else's balance would transfer immediately upon the date that we set to transfer.
Okay, so that choice really is one that you guys will counsel them as far as what might look best for their particular situation.
Correct. And I might even talk to Melissa Fowler because obviously she can see balances and she's the plan sponsor right now. Again, there might be 8 people that we'd have to talk to. So it's not extensive. It would be me coming over there for a day and having a conversation with some folks and just finding the best route for them. And when Matt and I were, I feel for those people a lot. And Matt's like, well, we got to remember we're doing this for the entire plan, not for a few individuals. So that's what we got to bear in mind when we're looking at the whole picture. What's best for everybody.
Ultimately, when we do a fund comparison side by side of the funds that you're in now for the whole plan, compared to the lineup that Two Rivers and Nick is proposing, along with the overall fee structure going down, so all of the fees for the overall plan that you've got will be decreasing. And so I don't want to put any unnecessary fear into anybody. I don't think you guys are out of compliance by any means. But as the fiduciary on the plan, you as the plan sponsor, when making decisions for the plan, have to look at the plan in its entirety for the benefit of all participants. And the reason the government stipulates that is because if you were the individual that was going to be adversely affected or positively affected, the government doesn't want you making whole plan decisions for your own account balance. So you have to look at the plan as a whole. And in general, this is a cost lowering for everybody. It's an easy administration improvement. Fiduciary liability goes down. Splitting of the two plans. I mean, it's one of those rare cases we come across where pretty much everything comes up roses. So the one negative would be the MBA, which we just have to work with those 8 people to figure it out.
So I know you've just said all that, but I want to make sure I understand. So these 8 people would have an individual choice on which way they transitioned, whether it was 20% over 5 years or all at once? Or do they all 8?
That's right.
Do they all 8 have to
No.
do the same thing?
Nope. We effectively how it would work is we would make one decision, and that's a great question. We would make one decision for the whole plan. So if one of the 8 employees decides, no, I want to leave my money in that fund, and I don't want to roll my money into a different fund to avoid MBA, I'd rather leave it for 5 years. That we
Hey, you're cutting out a little bit. Can you?
Yeah, Matt, we're losing you a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, I'm in a depression here. 1 second.
Right, you're in Missouri, so there's a lot of depression there. Sorry.
All right. Well, no problem. The short story, if you can hear me now, it looks like I've got a few more bars. The short story is that plan makes a decision, one decision. However, individuals of that decision by moving their money into other funds. If they don't have any money in that particular fund, then this doesn't affect them at all. So if they move their money out of that fund, then they're not affected by the MBA at all.
Okay. Melissa Fowler is in the room with us. Do you know how many are retired of those 8 that they're talking about, or are those 8 all full-time employees?
When I say 8, it's a rough estimate.
Well, yeah, I'm just using the number because you threw it out there.
Right, but when I pull this up, I can kind of tell you, I got one person particularly, and let me click, I'm looking at it right now. One person's got a very large balance, 100% in it. And that's the one person I'm thinking about. And I know almost everyone has a smidge instability going on that. But let me click some of the possible retiree people. And I won't know if they're termed. Voya is not super up to date. Sometimes it says termed and they're still working. Sometimes it says active and they've been termed for 20 years. So one of those things I'd love to get ahead of.
Do you happen to have an estimate?
don't
You
know,
don't?
no.
Okay. Melissa tells me that she doesn't have an estimate or know of the numbers quite yet, but I think those people would be probably the first ones you guys might want to contact with this type of move, because a retiree doesn't want to have their income stream disrupted for any reason, and I wouldn't want to disrupt that funding stream because I know what it's like to rely on some money that's coming from a retirement plan that I'm currently in. And, I'm putting money into the 457 plan. So that kind of thing I'm a little concerned with because, I could be retiring tomorrow from what I'm doing right now. You never know. So,
Well, the good news is, and I think this is worth noting as well, that if you decide to make this decision and make the move, paperwork would be filled out by you, by Nick, by the third-party administrator that Nick was referencing, and then all of that would be submitted back to T. Rowe Price. And then the process, then we would have authorization by the paperwork you signed and everything. We'd then get authorization to communicate with Voya and set a transfer date. And that transfer date is typically 8 to 10, sometimes 12 weeks away. So even if you decided today that, yes, this is the decision that you want to make and you want to move forward, the actual move won't take place until darn near summertime. So you'd have plenty of time to reach out to any employee and speak with them individually. How will this impact them? For 99% of the employees, it's not really going to impact them at all. They won't really notice much other than they're going to get a letter stating that the 457 will be transitioning to a new provider. And the difference is just going to be, instead of going to voya.com, you're just going to go to troprice.com. I'm biased. I'd like to think that it's going to be a much better experience for them. But in general, the basics are all going to be the same. They can log into just a different website, see their account balance, take a distribution, take a loan, continue contributing. If they take no action, if they don't read any of your emails and they don't read any of your letters, pretty much nothing's going to change except for that person getting a distribution. The check is going to say it's from T. Rowe as opposed to Voya. But nothing really is going to change for anybody.
okay. And then we'll still get quarterly reports mailed to us as we do right now from Voya every 3 months.
You will. Yep. You'll get quarterly statements mailed or emailed. We prefer email, but of course we can mail them as well. And then also you'll get what's called a 404A5, which is an annual fee disclosure statement. So it clarifies all of the fees that you're currently paying as an individual. And Voya provides that as well. It's a legal required document. And you can then look at those side by side, and then each participant will be able to see, exactly the cost reduction that they've seen by the transfer.
Okay. And then Voya is an insurance-based type fund, whereas T. Rowe Price is an actual fiduciary. Explain a little bit of the difference between the two.
Sure. Yeah. So Voya is there's just two different ways of record keeping it. Not one right or wrong way of doing it, but Voya is an insurance company. And so what you're purchasing is, instead of saying, I'll give you an example, say you're buying the American Funds Growth Fund of America. Let's just say, as an example, that's the fund that you've got in your current lineup. I actually haven't seen your current lineup, so I don't know in a while anyway, if I haven't seen the lineup recently. But let's assume you've got the American Funds Growth Fund of America. And then let's say when you move to T. Rowe Price, you also have the American Funds Growth Fund of America in the lineup. The difference between the two funds is that with T. Rowe Price, you're actually buying shares of that mutual fund. You are going to have X number of shares. You as an individual have an ownership of those particular shares. You'll have a ticker symbol associated with that fund. You'll be able to track it, obviously, on our website. But if you also wanted to just go to, the newspaper, or you wanted to go to Morningstar or go to Schwab.com and track the progress and the performance of that particular fund, you can do so. With Voya, it's what's called a group annuity contract. So just to kind of simplify it and shorten the story, effectively what Voya does is they go out and buy, 10,000 shares of American Funds Growth Fund of America, as an example. And then they unitize it. They put it into their own general account of investments at Voya because they're an insurance company. And then you as an individual are not buying shares of American Funds Growth Fund of America. You are buying what's called units of Voya's American Funds Growth Fund of America. So you are effectively you're saying, hey, let me have a piece of what you've already purchased. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. The only difference is that we don't keep it as a part of our general account. So you actually are the owner of your own investment. A little bit more clarity, because our fund does ride the performance of the actual fund, whereas theirs rides very closely to the performance of the fund. But it is also a little bit heavily dependent upon the performance of Voya as a company in and of itself. So just an extreme example here, which would never happen, but an extreme example, let's say the American Funds Growth Fund of America goes up 5%, and somehow Voya, goes belly up, they go bankrupt, and they shutter their doors. You would lose money because you were invested in Voya's general account. That's a very extreme example. That would never happen. But with us, if we shut our doors, you still own that share. We're just simply the broker of you trading that share. That's all it is.
This is where you're also
help?
realizing biggest gain of fee, because when Voya buys that and then resells you and units of it, they repackage it and they put a wrap fee on it. So that's something that T. Rowe Price is just selling you the share wholesale, and they're charging you a separate fee for just being that person that sells you that. Voya does not have that separate fee. They just tack a new fee onto the unit and they wrap it all into one pretty package for you. So that's where we're able to save you guys. The fee difference is quite large.
So to make sure I understand, the fees, are those the fees for the individual person or for the county?
Person.
I know. It's for the individuals, correct?
County has no.
Correct.
This is all participant paid for.
Right, okay. I was pretty sure that, but I wanted, for the sake of everybody on here, I wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah, throughout the whole process, the third-party administrator has fees, Two Rivers has fees, and T. Rowe Price has fees, and all of that is borne by the participant. So they'll just see that come out of their accounts quarterly. A small portion of it will come out each quarter, and net, it's a pretty dramatic decrease from what you're paying today.
Do you guys want to just say an example of how it worked out? I mean, you'd have to write it down or something, and I can tell you exactly what those fees are, if that helps, or do you guys need that?
Well, I don't know as to whether we want that all written out before we go, because those are varying numbers, aren't they? They're not a fixed number for those fees.
Or I can give you that Growth Fund of American fund, the exact example.
Didn't you go through that when you met with us a few months ago?
Mhm.
Yep, same one.
Yeah, no, I think we've got that, and it was lower. I mean, that's kind of why you're doing all this. And to go up to the 20,000 foot level, again, you as the broker contracted with different folks, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's what this is all about.
And that reduction of fee then is what's passed along to the actual client,
Correct.
basis. So,
The biggest gripe I saw when I did that other governmental entities move were now clients are calling me saying, "What's this fee?" Which is okay. I'm glad for it. It's transparency. I just really kind of chuckle and say, "Yep, you're seeing a fee. Voya had a fee too. The fee you're now seeing that you never saw before is about half of what you were paying." And then I walked them through the whole process, and everyone's been happy at the end of the day. I know it's tough to see that you've been charged, but I'd rather have that than not know what Voya's been taking all these years.
And as long as you're able to field those calls in a prompt manner, answer people's questions, that's great.
Yep.
Okay. Supervisor Drish, do you have any questions?
No, do not.
Okay. I think we've had all the questions answered. Now, is this done by, how is it recognized by the board to accomplish this? Do we need to do a resolution, or do we need to do some sort of documentation on our part that says we are moving this direction?
Yep, Melissa Fowler is technically your guys' plan sponsor on the Voya side. So T. Rowe Price gets a letter to her that she signs that allows T. Rowe Price to start the process. Once into that process, there is a ton of paperwork. Melissa's not enjoy this. I don't enjoy it either. But we sit down and we go line by line through every single option she can have in the plan. Becky Loper now becomes one. She is plan sponsor of the city because technically she has almost zero power right now. We handle all that paperwork. We even have the resolution that we hand to you guys to then sign off on, to say, yes, we agree with all this, and we can go through details as much as you want before everything's said and done.
And
It's a
then
process.
can I know the number's wrong, but can the 8 that are in that other setup be contacted and explain to them what is actually going to happen with this, so that they feel more comfortable with this type of move? Because I see concern coming from those folks more so than others like myself when it comes to things. I'm really pleased to hear that it's going to be more transparent about the fees that are being charged to you, the end recipient of this. But is that the case? You'll be able to have time to be able to talk to them before that resolution is signed?
Absolutely. Yep. Melissa and I will sit down and find out all these people that we want to talk to and get in front of. I can do all of that before anything goes ahead.
Okay.
And just to give you kind of a realistic time frame, so assuming you make that decision, we will send over the paperwork. As Nick mentioned, it will take us probably just, email response, phone calls and things like that. It'll probably take us a couple of weeks to get that paperwork all squared away, signed and submitted. And then the clock starts. And then at that point, it'll take about 8 to 12 weeks to get the plan transition. So we've got a long time before anybody needs to be concerned about their particular assets being moved without their knowledge.
So we're talking about probably right around the time of the change from one fiscal year to the next.
Pretty close to it. Yep.
Okay.
When is your fiscal year?
July 1st to June 30th.
If you'd like, we can, because that's far enough out, we can set it up such that is the date, if that's the case. Now, if it was closer, we'd have to rush, and I couldn't guarantee it. But that's far enough out that I'm very confident we can set it to be that specific date if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, that looks like it would work well on Melissa's end.
Right. Melissa's a little more comfortable with that. So why don't we shoot for something like that? Again, get us some information by our board meeting next Monday, if you could. Maybe a copy of that resolution so that we can look it over a little bit and see what the wording is and all of that. But in order to save our employees some money so that their accounts actually grow a little bit quicker than what they have been, and everybody's accounts have been growing pretty good for the last 6 years or more, we want to take advantage of it if at all possible. So that way our employees reap what's going on rather than not getting what they deserve in this case. So I would ask you gentlemen to work together, get us something if you can within this week. If not, let us know and we can put it off to the next board meeting after that. But I, for one, as a supervisor, think this is kind of a good move for us. I don't know where my other two supervisors sit on this, but just as a light straw poll right now, I'm getting one nod and I'm getting two nods. So
Well,
in the
and
affirmative.
it increases compliance, which I think is always a good thing, and transparency.
Yeah. So.
I had one question for you guys, because I think, and maybe I'm imagining this, you brought it up once upon a time. Since you guys no longer do that medical allocation that we had once upon a time in this plan, were you guys thinking about a match?
That's too premature.
Yeah, it's a little.
We're still doing
Okay.
it as for right now.
Yeah, Melissa confirms that we're still doing that allocation as of right now, but if that changes, then we're gonna have to review that pretty close, because I know that there are advantages to some employees because they don't purchase as much insurance. Health insurance is what other employees do. And the way we currently set it up is that any money that isn't used for purchase of that insurance rolls automatically over into our 457 situation. And we have to look at that as a whole, because that amount of money is kind of the setup the way it is right now is really causing us to go broke on the general fund side of our budget. So
It's on our list to look at. We've had some other issues come up that we're working through. So it's definitely on our list.
I just wanted to throw it out there as a possibility,
Yep.
as a way to help some folks out without tit for tat. Let's do some trading type thing. Help them. So, okay.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your input and your chance to get on with us. Matt, thank you for calling in by phone, and have safe travels today. Nick, will be
Thank you very much.
to hearing something from you with Melissa. Work with her right away. You could probably send the paperwork that we just asked for to her, and then she can disseminate it out to us, and we'll move forward from there.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Very good.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good week. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, we're going to move on in the agenda to discuss and consider Pekin School Resource Officer. We had a visit from the Pekin School superintendent a week ago, and this kind of falls in line with the 2080 agreement that we just approved for Cardinal School District to match a little bit money for the resource officer down there. But I think since I have the sheriff here with us today, he can explain a few more little items to us if he wants. I know you've kind of explained to us how it's going to be one of your particular officers that you want to move from some of the duties that she's currently doing and then adding this to it. Is that what it's all about?
Correct. Kevin Hatfield is the superintendent at Pekin Schools.
Mhm.
He's unable to make it today. I believe he might be in a board meeting in Keokuk County. He's trying to share costs between all the students that make up Pekin Schools, kind of like what you do with Cardinal.
Right.
So he would like to attend next week, I believe. So yes, well, it'd be up to the board to work out an agreement with Pekin itself. You're not involved in him working out agreements with other counties, but on a shared cost, he's thrown out up to 2 days per week.
Right.
So whatever is fair, it's not going to affect my budget, other than if down the road he's wanting increased more school resource officer time. I mean, if he's wanting a full-time 180 days out of the school, then that's going to affect, I would need to replace somebody. Right now, that's not what I'm looking for.
Mhm.
So that's, if we open the door with this, that's, I don't know, but that would be an agreement later down the road if we were going to do that. But right now he's thrown out 2 days.
So how does that affect? I know you mentioned to me that you had met with a couple of the other sheriffs that are also involved in the counties. I mean, how does that
Met
affect
with-
their budgets too? Or
I
does
met
it-
with Wapello County, Keepa County with Pat Pekin. So they make up a number of students from mostly 3 counties. I think they have a little bit of Washington there too. So I think the superintendent just wanted to see where this all stood with all the counties and the students. And I think that's why he went to Sigourney this morning to kind of introduce the same concept.
So will they be supplying anything toward this, or will Jefferson County do everything as far as the resources?
What he would do is go to those counties and ask for money to
Okay.
share the cost. Your only agreement is with Pekin,
Okay,
and what's fair
sure.
as revenue back. We're supplying the deputy who is trained. I have Deputy Angie Horn trained in
Right.
school resource officer.
Kinda
She
like
attended 3 trainings last.
Okay,
year.
thank you.
So that's where we are
Yeah.
right now.
No, I guess we're open, so wait to learn more, right?
That'd be good. That'd be
And
good.
those funds, I'm assuming, come back to the general fund of the county and then
Yes.
dispersed out to the sheriff's office if that's what we deem is done with it.
I think
Because it
just
won't
comes
go
back-
It
directly.
just goes back to county.
It just goes
Okay.
back, the
Like
agreement
everything.
would be between the board of supervisors and the school board.
Okay, so there's no real double dip that's happening here where some of that fund goes to the officer that's assigned out there, whether that's Angie or any other officer.
No, not at all.
Okay, all right. So,
Any questions, Susan?
Bart, by Kevin going to Wapello and Keokuk County, or wherever he's today, to talk to their supervisors, I'm assuming that one might be 2 days, one might be 1 day to make the 5 for the week. Do you think that's right?
I guess I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, are they gonna want somebody, are they gonna help pay for Angie to be there those 2 days?
That's
Plus
an
the 20
agreement.
So I was asking if they had, if Keokuk County is gonna have the same thing. And since there's 5 days in the school week, would Keokuk be paying for one of those, or are they gonna put somebody there for a day or so, or?
That's an agreement between Pekin School Board and
Yeah,
Pekin
so
County, not between you and.
I know, but I was just asking what they're thinking. What do you can't tell me what they're thinking. Okay, I get that. That's hard to predict anybody what they're thinking. But I guess I was wondering how they're gonna be involved. I know, what does Wapello do? We pay so much money, $5,000.
mhm.
Right
For
now,
Cardinal?
Wapello has agreement with Cardinal School.
Yeah,
And I think it's split halfway. He's there a full 180 days of the school year.
okay, I was wondering,
He's there every day, and I think they take his salary, FICA, IFRS, insurance,
Yeah.
total cost of that, and split it in half.
so would they, I'm confused here. Is that what the intention is down the road for the Pekin schools?
Not right now, it's not.
Okay.
I don't know what they're thinking. That, I only brought that up because if later down the road, they're asking for more, we'd have to sit down and talk, because I don't know, I couldn't supply a full-time one without hiring additional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
When Angie's up there, she can also, if there's a call, we can pull her out of school and have her go. Because
Yes,
the distance to drive.
she would have that freedom to leave at any time too.
So it's a
She
win-win.
would still be responsible to the county itself.
Yeah. That's a win-win, and we'll have closer coverage.
Right.
all right. Any other questions for us here, guys, or for Bart, our sheriff?
Nope. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Make it warmer, Bart.
All right, we'll move on then. Let's see, we're gonna make committee reports. Let's start with D, and I'll let you talk about our meeting on Friday
Let's
as
see.
part of the reports.
They had EMA Monday. And what else? Mostly budget meetings and then service agency. So for EMA, at present, the levy was voted down and the per capita is going to increase. It hasn't been increased for a long time from $1 to $2. Service agency is proposed to go into mediation with the city. So I know the county attorney and city attorney are working on that. So that's kind of where we are there.
Okay. Susie, you want to talk about our meeting with the Farm Bureau?
Sure. We all went to Farm Bureau on Thursday night. And I think the highlight of that was our county engineer answering all their questions and some. I think he proved he was a very amicable person. He, was answered all their questions very well. They didn't have a lot of questions for us because Dwayne was talking a long time. But it was a very good meeting in the effect that they got to see how we were coming along as a county.
Mm-hmm.
And the improvements we've made in the last year, just with the county engineer, I thought was very good.
Right, and let's see if I can find that paper from Dwayne here.
There'll be a whole lot of
Here it is.
gravel being added to the roads to help.
Right, but they're gonna put 900 pounds on instead of.
No,
700
700 tons per mile
Yeah.
instead of 300
Yeah.
tons per mile. We've got 70 miles worth of rural stone that's going to be done at that rate. We have 10 miles worth of double chip seal on roads that are going to be stabilized, and the base is going to be worked up much better than it has been in the past because of the processes that we're going to use now. We are going to see the bridge outside of Vedic City or inside of Vedic City taken care of this year. Our participation in that is about $42,000. We're going to spend some swap money on County Road H33, which is 32nd Street, going from Libertyville Road up to the city of Fairfield. We also have a netmeg and large stabilization and seal going on in it. Along with it, we also have the Germanville Bridge over Burr Oak Creek being taken from bridge funds to be worked on, and then 275th Street Bridge that needs to be worked on out there. And the prices that Dwayne has estimated are pretty solid. The roadstone is going to cost us $1.75 million. The double chip seal will be $600,000. Vedic City Bridge is $236,000. H33 is projected to be $930,000. On that, the county portion would be $200,000. And with the Vedic City Bridge, the $236,000, the county's dollars will be only $42,000. We only put in a small participation amount with that. The Germanville Bridge over Burr Oak Creek, that will be all out of bridge funds, and that's $706,275 as an estimate right now. And then 275th Street Bridge is $595,000 for a total cost of $5,717,275 of which the county is supplying $2,592,000 of that money. So I think Dwayne's got a pretty good plan here for this next fiscal year, the 2022 construction and maintenance of our secondary roads. And I think that's a major improvement that our county residents are going to see, the farmers are going to appreciate, with everything out there. And some of the roads that have been complained about heavily are the ones that are targeted to be taken care of.
Yeah,
Taken care of this
and
year.
one of the reasons they're doing this double chip seal over time, again, it's about 60 or 70 miles, 10 miles a year, is over time, it'll greatly decrease dust control needs, especially on some of these high traveled roads, and increase safety, and also the need for gravel over time. So we're excited about it.
Okay.
Back to the meeting, they did have several questions concerning the ARP money.
Yeah.
But Darren explained that we were a little behind getting the money because he had to learn the process to apply for the money. Then when we did get the money, we've sure got a lot of folks that want something,
Yeah, we're trying to prioritize and take our time to see what else is coming down the pipe.
Yeah, and we explained that to them, and I think they've heard what we were saying. It's a very good meeting.
Mhm.
As far as the other meeting that I went to, I had a workforce meeting on Thursday, and not much is happening with that agency, except the biggest thing that came out of the meeting is they're gonna have an election in May.
I thought they were supposed to, because I was on that before you started.
Yeah.
So I thought the idea was to get more back to the local, what do you call that group?
Local service agency.
Local
Just a local
board.
board, yeah.
Which is in our area, local board is
Correct.
several counties, but but to get,
Actually, a lot.
has that happened?
No,
Really?
no.
So what are they doing? Never mind.
I think they're just considering things.
Okay.
It's a waste of an hour.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
No? Okay. I was in attendance at all the meetings except the one that Susie had mentioned. We also had budget workshops all week long this past week, and we're nearing some of the timeline stuff that we have to get done with. We have to do our max levy asking number and have it created and published prior to the 21st of this month. So we're on track for being able to get that accomplished. We still have some fine tuning that we want to do with what's going on with our budget for the next fiscal year. All of our department heads, all of the elected officials, we refer to elected officials as department heads as well, know what they're doing. They've done really well these past couple of years, trying to stay within that 2% allowable growth. It's a tough thing to do, especially with, as everyone knows, prices going up on virtually everything. And inflation rate is a little bit high right now, but I think we're going to be able to work through it and get everything needed that we need to take care of, and not concentrate on wants that a lot of people want, but we need to take care of our county needs first. And anything that we can find beyond that might go to wants that people want to see done and work with. But I think we're moving ahead really good with the secondary roads particularly. And I think a lot of that is due to our new county engineer. So we'll move on then from making committee reports to public comments. I have Chris Sestel with us yet, and I have someone on an iPhone that's with us as well. Is there any public comments from either? Anybody in our office here with us? We have Lee Dimmitt and Tom Drish in here at our meeting today. Do we have any public comments from either of you guys? Okay, Tom.
I just want to talk a little bit about was talking about the EMA on funding for that. The per capita did pass with it. It did. It's still a Band-Aid for funding emergency management. I think we're letting our disdain for Fairfield influence on how to fund emergency management. All I heard throughout the whole meeting is that the county sounds like it's going to have an open checkbook on funding some things. But all I heard was that county can take care of this, county can take care of that when it comes to projects, when it comes to for a trailer or equipment or new vehicle or anything like that. So it's just frustrating that we have a way to make our commission self-sufficient. We're able to raise our own funds with a small levy, but it gets brought up that it doesn't seem like that we're going to be able to control that. 9-person board made up with 7 mayors, one county supervisor, and a sheriff is not what it sounds like is that they don't have the control on a 4 to 5 cent levy to fund emergency management. And to me, I think that's a shame. I think we're letting our things that are happening with dispatch influence on what's things on how to fund emergency management, and it should spill over from one agency to the other, and it has. So,
Okay. Anything for you, Lee?
I think to follow up with, I mean, I think the commission worked very hard. I know that it's a difficult proposition trying to figure out what's the best way. As I in the meeting after the fact, the commission in any way, shape. But I have a firm belief that I don't say this, when I say it, don't misunderstand how this comes down. The county's not always going to be there or be, I mean, you said it just a little bit earlier. We have to look at needs as opposed to wants and the 2% allowable growth and all that plays into it. Whereas the code's very clear that the commission shall use one or any combination of the following. That's quote to fund emergency management. The EMA levy is the first thing. And so my take on all of this is that if we compare it to an ambulance, to a sheriff's department, to the police department, to the fire department, when those needs arise, like $100,000 for sirens, nobody wants to pay for it. And that's not, again, an indictment of anybody until you need it. And then when you need it, $4 for $100,000 of taxable valuation is a pretty cheap price when you're talking about $4 a year. And so I think that I would hope that the commission would revisit the issue at the next meeting, or because I agree with Tom. I do feel like that it's as much of an arm wrestling contest as we've had over the last couple of years regarding dispatch. I'm not saying that it's clouded our vision, but I do think that we allowed that to influence the conversation. And understandably so, I don't think the commission will ever support a levy for dispatch, but I think that that's a separate issue, and I would like to see the funding of the commission revisited here in the near future.
and I just want to reiterate, I'm not throwing stuff if the county wants to help out, that's fine, but we have ways to be self-sufficient, raise our own money, that we shouldn't have to rely on the county to provide for the agency itself. That's where I should clarify that.
So our representative that was at that meeting, what was the actual vote on that?
We're supposed to just take public comments and not comment, but since you asked, what
Well-
was it? Or 63? Yeah,
6-3.
so anyway,
It was a vote to increase the per capita.
Right, to increase the per capita.
But
It's
they
was
already voted
6.3,
on that.
which is.
There
one of
was
the-
no vote taken up on the
The
levy
levy.
itself.
No,
Not that I
So
remember.
if it was proposed, then it would have died for lack of a second.
I don't know.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
We'll move on to allow claims and approve reports.
So moved.
Second,
I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Drish. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discuss and consider nuisance properties. I don't have anything this week other than to comment that we held a hearing for one property owner, and that property owner did not show up. It's a kind of a typical response from that one individual to request things and then not follow through on showing up to actually plead their case. So we decided to go ahead and move forward with the rest of the process because we now have in place the fact that they did get their public hearing and that they chose not to be here. So that's about where I'm at with nuisance properties. We still need to have a larger discussion as far as keeping the ordinance or not keeping the ordinance, enforcing the ordinance and how we do that, and monies that we put towards that, whether it's being effectively used or if it's not really paying off what we needed to do. So that's just all I have on nuisance properties. So we now have a budget meeting that we're gonna go into, a budget work session. And I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Drish and a second from Sandquist to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody, for joining this meeting this morning.